Okay, so have you ever felt that like pressure to have your life figured out by like a certain age?
Oh, yeah,
You know what I'm talking about, right?
totally.
It's like graduate by 22, land a dream job by 25, married by 30, and so on.
Right.
Like society just hands us this pre-printed timeline
Yeah.
and expects us to stick to it no matter what.
That's like a blueprint for life.
Exactly.
Take it by.
But what happens when you don't?
Right.
What if you ditch that timeline
Yeah.
and just let life unfold naturally?
Interesting.
That's what we're diving into today.
Okay.
We've got this excerpt that really throws that whole rush, rush, rush mentality out the window.
I like that.
And I'm excited to unpack it with you.
Yeah, me too.
So this is one line in the excerpt that really hit me, and it says, "My hair was tangled while I built my house."
Huh. That's a powerful image.
Right?
What do you think it means?
To me, it's like you're so focused on creating something meaningful
Yeah.
that you're not worried about appearances.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're not worried about looking put together.
Right, like your priorities are straight.
Exactly.
You're focused on the big picture,
Yeah.
not the little details.
What about you?
What part of the excerpt resonated most with me?
Yeah.
I think it's how this piece challenges the whole life clock mentality.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
You know, we're constantly bombarded with these external benchmarks.
Yeah.
Like, you should have achieved this by this age.
It's like everyone's keeping score.
Exactly. And it's no wonder so many people feel like they're falling behind.
Totally.
This constant comparison can fuel so much anxiety.
Oh, absolutely.
And it just chips away at our self-worth.
It's like you're always measuring yourself against others.
Right. And this excerpt reminds us that everyone's path is unique.
I love that.
Like, those external timelines don't always reflect our individual journeys.
So true.
Like you said, you got to ditch those external timelines.
Yeah, and focus on our own journeys.
That's the key.
And the excerpt uses some specific examples like buying a car at 40 or finding love after divorce at 45. It's like saying, hey, it's okay if things happen outside of society's arbitrary timeline.
Right, because who says those milestones have to happen at a certain age?
Exactly. But do you think these examples are universal?
You mean, like, do they apply to everyone?
Yeah. Or is there a cultural aspect at play here?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
I think the pressure to conform to a certain life script exists across many cultures.
Okay.
But the specific milestones and timelines can vary.
So like the details might change?
Right. But the underlying message is universal.
Which is?
It's okay to deviate from the norm and embrace your own rhythm.
I love that.
You know, psychologically, there's a lot to be said for that kind of freedom.
Oh, yeah. So let's talk about that.
Okay.
Like what happens when we actually start living this way?
When we let go of those rigid timelines?
Yeah. Is there like a psychological benefit to that?
Absolutely.
Tell me more.
So when we release the need to control every aspect of our lives and surrender to the natural unfolding of things,
Okay.
it can be incredibly liberating.
I can see that.
It frees up mental space
Right.
to be more present, more accepting of ourselves and our circumstances.
That makes sense.
It's like psychologist Carl Rogers said.
Oh, I like Carl Rogers.
The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change.
Powerful stuff.
Right.
Letting go of rigid timelines allows us to focus on our own growth
Exactly.
rather than meeting external expectations.
That's the key.
It's funny because it almost sounds counterintuitive, right?
How so?
You'd think having these deadlines would push you forward,
Yeah, it seems logical.
but it's actually the opposite.
it can be freeing to let go of those deadlines.
Exactly. But could there also be a downside to this approach?
What do you mean?
Could this go with the flow mentality lead to complacency
Okay.
or even a lack of ambition?
That's a valid concern.
Right.
And it's important to strike a balance.
Yeah.
Embracing a less rigid approach to life doesn't mean abandoning goals altogether.
Okay.
It's about finding a rhythm that aligns with your values and aspirations,
That makes sense.
not just blindly following societal dictates.
So it's about finding your own path.
Exactly. And that brings us back to a powerful line from the excerpt.
Okay, which one?
No one but you knows how rough your path is.
Wow, yes.
Really hits home, right?
It's a reminder that we're all carrying unseen burdens,
Yeah.
fighting our own battles.
Everyone's got their own struggles.
Exactly. So how do you think understanding that?
Understanding the individual struggles that people face.
Yeah. How does that change how we view our own timeline or even someone else's?
It invites us to practice empathy and compassion.
Okay.
We can't judge someone's progress
Right.
without knowing the full context of their journey.
Like the challenges they've overcome, the setbacks they've endured.
Exactly.
It's like we only see the highlight reel.
Right. And comparing ourselves to others, especially when we only see a curated snapshot of their lives
Uh-huh.
can lead to unnecessary self-criticism
Totally.
and feelings of inadequacy.
Yeah. It's so easy to get caught up in that comparison game.
It's a trap.
So, with all of this in mind,
Yeah.
how can we differentiate between healthy ambition
Okay.
and that need to conform to societal expectations?
That's the million-dollar question.
Because wanting to achieve things isn't bad in itself, right?
No, not at all.
It's all about the motivation.
Exactly. It's about checking in with your motivations.
Okay.
Ask yourself, am I pursuing this goal because it genuinely aligns with my values and aspirations?
Okay.
Or am I driven by a fear of falling behind, of not measuring up to some external standard?
That's a great question to ask yourself.
Right when the driving force is external pressure,
Uh-huh.
that's when ambition can turn toxic.
That's a good point.
So yeah, it's all about finding that balance.
This has been such an insightful deep dive.
I agree.
I think the core message here is really about letting go of rigid timelines
Yeah,
and embracing our own pace.
absolutely.
It's about trusting the journey.
Even when it takes unexpected turns.
Exactly. So as we wrap up,
Okay.
here's a final thought-provoking question for you.
Okay.
Imagine you could rewrite society's life timeline
Interesting.
to be more supportive and less pressure-driven.
Okay.
What would that timeline look like? What milestones would it prioritize?
Good question.
What values would it reflect?
I like that.
That's something I want you to think about today as you navigate your own unique path.
That's a great takeaway.
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
It was my pleasure.
Until next time.
See ya.